This week we're going to make a little step stool for my niece, and I will run over measurements as we go through the video, but keep in mind these are particular for her. So for material, I'm going to use this timber prefabbed laminated panel. It keeps costs down and also makes this project really quick and efficient. I've already made my build document, so I know what I need to do straight off the bat. Our first step is going to be to cut all the pieces out that we need out of this panel. So let's get it unwrapped and let's get the pieces cut.
Like I mentioned in my intro, I decided to use a prefab timber panel. You could always use plywood or glue up your own panels. My first step was to rough cut all my pieces I needed for the stool. Using the miter saw, I cut the sides, which were 500mm high, and the top step, which was 150mm, and the bottom step, which was 315mm. I worked with the width of the panel to limit the cuts I needed to make. To mark where my steps were going to go, I measured 147mm from the bottom and made my first mark. I used the step to measure the thickness of the timber and also mark what material I needed to remove with the router. My second step is 317mm from the bottom. Once I had everything marked up, I could use a straight edge and a router to route out the material to create the rebate for the step. In terms of depth, I routed down approximately 10mm. Now when it comes to putting the stool together, you could keep it as simple as screwing in the steps from the side, or you could use pocket holes to bring it together. I decided rebating the steps would ensure the stool was as strong as it could be and ultimately hold the weight of anybody. Once I was done with the router, I used a chisel to square up the corners. The next step was to cut the handle. I measured up 150mm from the bottom and 150mm in from the top. I then connected these marks. I had a 30mm spacer and I marked 30mm in from all sides. I also made the handle 30mm wide. Once I had the handle marked out, I could use a jigsaw to cut it out. I used sandpaper to clean up the handle and took my time to get it right. I used a jigsaw to roughly cut the handle out on the other side. I could then clamp the two sides together and use a flush trim bit in my router to match both sides. As a side note, to use a flush trim bit, you want to put the two pieces together, and the flush trim bit has a bearing on the bottom which runs along the bottom piece, which is the final piece, and it matches it to the top. I kept the two pieces together so I could use the circular saw to cut the corner off and finish off the sides. I decided to cut part of the bottom out as well. This is totally optional, I just think it adds to the overall look of the stool. I measured 140mm in from each side and 40mm up and simply used a jigsaw to cut it out. Again, once I had the side cut, I used my flush trim bit to complete the second side. I next used my trim router to round over all the edges that would be touched. At this stage, I sanded everything up to 220 grit and applied a coat of clear. I applied the clear coat at this stage to save me trying to get into all the corners later on. It was then time to glue the stool up and start to bring everything together. The other advantage in rebating the steps is it makes the glue up much easier and everything comes together quickly and is level. To add strength and peace of mind, I reinforce the steps with dowels from the side. When I add dowels like this, I use a Forstner bit to start to help with tear out and get a clean start, and then I come back with a drill bit as it's a lot quicker to finish. I could then give everything another sand and apply the final coat of finish. It was then time for delivery and testing. To say the stool was a success would be an understatement. It's projects like this that remind me woodworking is more than just screwing some timber together. To be able to help families and build solutions that can't be found online and personalise it just for them brings a smile to my face and reminds me why I love woodworking so much. Now I hope everyone has liked this project as much as I have, and if you have, help me out by hitting those subscribe and like buttons, and I'll see you on the next one.